Okay, several of you have been asking for something like this. So in an attempt to get us all kind of on the same page, because we're all coming from different academies and different schools of thought, I want to start by working with just regular ruled paper. Now, since this is American, each of these lines is 1/2 inch apart. Normally, I prefer to work with the metric side, but let's just kind of go to the middle of the page. You can't see that I'm in the middle, but trust me that I'm in the middle. And I'm going to make a little mark at the quarter point. So this is 1/2 of one ruler line and 1/2 of one, ruled paper line. And now, okay, I've got a microblading tool under there. Let's draw a straight line, bisecting more or less that line, that ruler line, that ruled paper line, and then another one doing that. Well, that's kind of low. So let's try it again. I don't want to be doing it off. I thought about using graph paper, which is what I used to do myself, because actually these aren't perfectly 1/2 inch. That's part of the problem. But they're also not metrically anything. I mean, they're metrically, yeah, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5 millimeters. So let's go back to just using, assuming that it's basically 1/2 of an, it's a 1/4 inch, I'm sorry. So from here, line this up. From here to here is about a 1/4 inch. So putting this dot right there at 1/8 of an inch. Then I'm just going to move that up to the next line and put the dot right there. So we have 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, more or less. It would be nice if my pencil were sharp enough to be meaningful. Okay, so this is just for, in talking about phi, and I've said this in other little lessons that I've done, but phi, that's the capitalized letter, and the one that you see like in phi browse, that's the lowercase letter. And it's just a Greek letter, but it stands for the golden ratio, which is 1.6, I'm going to say 2 to 1. And this is found in nature and in the human body, in fractals. I mean, some of this is just math, so, but like whenever we see a spiral, the golden ratio is involved in that. So like seashells and that sort of thing. But anyway, what does that have to do with eyebrows? Well, it does so happen that the eyebrow, the human eyebrow, can be looked at this way. I'm going to try to use this mechanical pencil. I think I'll get a better line. Okay, so let's start. Well, let's just try to get everybody on the same page. And so that when we're referring to things, we're all talking about the same thing. Wherever you learned your microblading or your brow design, and I know a lot of you want to learn that, this is what's going to help you the most. Okay, so I'm going to put a point right here. And then I'm going to just go out a little bit and put another point right there. So it's not straight down, it's a little bit over, okay? Now I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to measure. Now I'm going to go ahead and use the metric side because I can't do this. It just doesn't work well to do it in inches. I'm going to measure out 6 centimeters. Actually, I'm going to measure it from this point, okay? All right, and I'm going to just put a dot right there. Now, what I want to do, so this is my 6 centimeters from here. Do you see that? I'll just draw this line. That's, you can see right there, 6 centimeters. Now, I need a calculator, or I did this before, so I kind of already had it done. I'm going to measure about 3.7 centimeters. In fact, let's just do it straight like this. So here's 3.5, 6, 7. And I'm just going to go up here and keep going, put a dot. Then let's start labeling these. I think I will use red. This is 0.1. This is 0.2. Now, I'm going to go to the end of this 6 centimeters, and I'm going to go up to, I don't care whether you do it to here or to here, but for our purposes, we'll do it right here in the middle. And that's going to be called 0.3. Are you following along okay so far? So this dot that I put out a little bit is going to be 0.4. So we have the building blocks of the eyebrow according to the golden ratio. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to repeat how I got them. So first I measured out 6 centimeters, which is kind of the average length of the human eyebrow. Well, actually, first I divided this ruled paper into, divided these in half. So these are approximately 1/4 of an inch, and so I divided them into halves, or 1/8 of an inch, so that I have these 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. Like I say, graph paper would probably be better, but you guys are more likely to have this lined ruled paper than graph paper. Then after I did that, I measured out 6 centimeters. Then I had previously done the math of determining the golden ratio, the this ratio of 6 centimeters, if I divide 6 by 1.62, that gives me 3.7-ish. So I measured right from here, from point 1 to 3.7. And I went up dot, 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 and there's my point 2. And then at the end of my 6 centimeters, I went up dot, 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 another 1/8 of an inch, and made that 0.3. Now 0.4 is just a little bit out from everything. You don't need to measure it, but if you want, I guess, it's a couple of millimeters. So now I'm going to draw straight lines, which is not really how we would normally work, but that's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to draw a line connecting point 1 with point 2. Now I'm going to draw a line connecting point 2 with point 3. All right. Now I'm going to freehand a line out to point 4. Now I'm going to go in about 2 centimeters. That's going to be 0.5. And I'm going to go at point 2. I'm going to go over just 1, 2, 3 millimeters, and that's going to be 0.6. Okay, so let me review again what I've done. First, I divided the ruled paper into halves so that these are 1/8 of an inch, these lines. Then I measured 6 centimeters, and up here on this line is 0.1, and then going down 1/8 of an inch to the 6 centimeter point is 0.3. Using the golden ratio, I calculated that 6 divided by 1.62 is approximately 3.72. So that is my 0.2. And this, what's left is approximately 2.5. I mean, this is not a very accurate ruler, but it would all add up to 6 centimeters. So now, how do we, from here, get a brow? Well, in Fee brows and also Beauty Angels, 0.5 is considered the thickest part of the lower brow, or the lower brow, the thickest part of the brow. So let's start getting that line there. And then 0.6 is going to be the skinniest part. So what I'm going to do is, and now I'm freehanding because you can go ahead and try to do it with a ruler, but you're going to be drawing these rounded off. It's not the skinniest part of the tail, it's where the tail begins to thin out. Okay, now let's soften everything. So I'm going to kind of curve this. I'm going to curve this, but 0.2 is always your highest point. Some people will just do this very straight. Other people will draw it a little bit convex. I do it straight because it's easier for me to use a straight edge and just have it like that. The angle that you're seeing this at is pretty crappy right now, too. Okay, so this design has met two important requirements for brow design. The golden ratio, which is that the distance from the head to the arch is 1.62 in terms of ratio to the difference between to the distance between the arch to the tail, which would be 1. So it's a ratio of this is 1 and this is 1.62. Or when we measured it out, this is 3.7 something and this is 2.5 something. Now I'm going to go ahead and like draw it for realsies. Using the black pen, so that's very brave of me. Okay, so what I was going to say, sorry, in addition to the golden ratio being observed, notice that 0.3 is not any lower than 0.4. So what I always prefer is to have it be kind of in between 0.1 and 0.4. If I can get it here on the same line with 0.1, that's great. I like that even better. So now I'm going to just erase the pencil marks so that we're looking at this and the numbers. So this ratio is the golden ratio, and that's key. The second thing that's key is everybody who is wanting to participate in learning from either Fee-Brows or Beauty Angels, their approach, or those of you who are asking for help with brow design, we're always just going to refer to this because both Fee-Brows and Beauty Angels, the two academies that I've studied with, use this concept of the golden ratio. And if you get yourself a brow compass from really anywhere, this is what it will result in. Secondly, I want you, let's all be using these same numbers. 1 is the beginning of the head, 2 is the arch, 3 is the end of the tail. 4 comes out a little bit from 1 and is the bottom of the head. 5 is sort of the thickest part of the this part of the brow. And 6 is a few millimeters over from under 2. Okay, now the other thing that some of you have asked about is basic stroke patterns. And, you know, I can't really give you an entire microblading course in one sitting here. But first of all, there are going to be a few common elements. One, there will be head strokes. So I'm just going to draw some very simple head strokes. When we're working with the head, or with most of the brow, we're curving because your brow hairs curve. So that's the head. Now we have on our brows hairs that are at the bottom of the brow and hairs that are at the top. And we call those lower and upper hairs or strokes. So I'm going to draw a line for where the most common division point is, and that is this one. It ends at 0.6. So somehow we need to get our head strokes, or sorry, our upper strokes and our bottom strokes intersecting, melding together. There has to be a transition or some kind of a connection to get over there. So what Beauty Angels teaches is, and I don't do these in their order because I've learned too many techniques. I just do it in my own way. A little curving one like this, then one like this, then coming out here with kind of a fan, and then another one. They call these connection strokes. Now that I've drawn that in there, I'm going to move this line because it's off. I didn't want to put these connection or transition strokes in before I knew what I was doing. So now I'm going to draw this, and I'm kind of like looking through the camera. All right. So this line is dividing up the, well, I guess we kind of have three areas to think of. And if you look, you can see that these are triangles. This is why I keep saying this is all about math. We have this triangle area here of lower strokes, this triangle here of upper strokes, and this triangle here of tail strokes. So at its simplest, we're just going to go like this. Let's just draw equidistant, increasingly curving strokes down here. And then let's go up here to the top, and we're going to draw some strokes. We always want to be aiming for 0.3. We never want to be aiming for down here. Like this one should even be more flat. And I'm going to stop there because I'm crossing that arch and going into the tail now. But I'm still going to go, but I just want to point out that I'm now entering this final triangle. So at this point, I really am just pointing toward 0.3. And so the simplest strokes that I'm going to make here are going to be strokes that connect somehow these lower strokes with these upper strokes. So let's get a few additional strokes in here. And I'm going to I want these to merge with that line that I drew from from this connection area to 0.6. So you see how I'm kind of curving as I go over. Now on my head strokes, I'm also going to come in here and this is technique that you would learn in a program. I'm not trying to teach that here. And I wouldn't be working with pencil normally. So I'm now in the tail. So as far as the very, very basics of eyebrow design, I've broken it down for you, the measurements. It is mathematical. I'm sorry if you don't like math, there's no other way around it. If you don't like math, then you need to be able to have the ability that I don't have, which is to see this and like hear a song and be able to play it on the piano, versus learning the notes. So now I'm going to do this on latex for you to the best of my ability. Okay. So I'm just going to start out with just, so this brow stencil is already done to the golden mean. So we don't need to worry, the golden ratio, we don't need to worry about that. So I'm just going to try to replicate those basic strokes that I did to begin with. Now my blade is getting too old. Let me switch it over. And I'm going to move down one. So these are just really basic head strokes. And, you know, if you take any one of the courses, Fee Brows or Beauty Angels, one of the things that you'll learn is that these guys have to be equidistant from each other. So see, the distance between here and here is the same as here and here is the same as here and here, and same up at the top. Now I'm going to draw those connection or transition strokes that we have to have. Don't expect to be like learning microblading by watching me do one thing here. Now, points. So here's point 1. The tallest point is going to be point 2, so that's here. And if you just go over a little bit, that's point 6. This end of the tail is always point 3. This thickest part here is 0.5, and this is 0.4. So I will write on my latex and show that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, now I'm going to draw a dotted line connecting these particular connection strokes to 0.6. And again, if I just did this imaginary line here, you see that we have essentially 3 triangles. You can't really get away from it being math. So I'm going to draw just the simplest of strokes here, going up to and merging with that dotted line, that connection line. I don't recommend this. I'm like looking, one eye is looking through my phone and one eye is looking at the latex. It's not fun. And we run out of room here, but what we do is we draw a flat line right there at the base of the brow. And then I'm going to do these upper strokes, and I really want to think of them as reaching toward point 3. Especially once I pass the arch. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm like going cross-eyed trying to view this from 2 weird different perspectives. I'm going to have to come up with a different system. All right, so let's add some other strokes in here now to make it look somewhat realistic. And these strokes are going to come up and really curve onto that connection line or transition line, whatever you want to call it. That line that I drew to point 6. Yeah, I cannot see what I'm doing. And I'm going to stop there. Now let's go up here and do the upper strokes. And I'm not going to go in, I'll just go into a little bit of detail here. When you draw an upper stroke, you want it to intersect with the middle of, so like it's going to intersect here. Really aiming toward point 3. See, this part is where I messed up because I was not looking at the latex. I was looking through my phone. This line that we drew, we can now bring it in and complete the tail. Okay, I'm going to wipe that. That's one of my cats expressing her concerns. And then I think somebody asked me about shading too. So I'm going to, the pigment that I have in my ring, I'm going to make it a little bit lighter. Sorry for that noise. Just by adding a touch of yellow. I'm working with Phi Soup, S-U-P pigments. And I just always have these toothpicks on hand to stir with. So this will lighten up the pigment. I don't even know what I was using. I think I was using brown 2, which is universal brown. So I'm taking it, this is not really taking it down that much, but it's taking it down a little bit. Okay, so I just have a shader that I like, the shader from Daria Shupris. It's got 14 pins, I think it is, in a circle. So when you do shading, you're going to focus that connection line. You're really going to focus there. But let's just start adding shading on the tail. Because if you look at anybody, the tail is where things are the darkest. And as you can see here, I'm just doing little dots, pixelating. You need to be careful on latex because it can get chewed up. You know, in reality, you would probably use several different colors to give it dimension and a realistic vibe going on. And really what you're doing is you're wanting to get in between those hair strokes with your shader. So again, this is not any kind of a substitute for taking a class. And I'm going to concentrate my dots right here on that connection line or the spine. I'm just going to be kind of subtle here in these, the lower stroke area. I know that Beauty Angels has some kind of a $99 deal where for $99, I think you get a compass for calculating the golden mean, and you get some kind of a trial to try it out. They also have a conversion program so that if you learned, say that you took a course somewhere, it was a 3-day course, and then you have your certificate and you're let go, which is irresponsible because it really does take a lot longer than that. At the head area, I'm just going to go really lightly and hardly had anything. I would, again, normally be lightening my pigment, or I would be using a different shader. But I'm just trying to keep it simple here. Okay, let's wipe and see where we are. So you can see that we've added some dimension to this from what it was before. I would really be coming back in here along this connection line, this spine, and making sure that it really had the bulk. And I would also be adding a lot to the tail.